Explore the world's most fascinating peaks from Vesuvius to Everest with Mountain Backgammon. Here's how to play. The aim of backgammon is to move all your counters along the points, or in this case, mountains, and into your home board. And then you remove or bear off the counters from the board altogether. The first to bear off all their counters wins the game. Mountain Backgammon is a 2-player game, and each player has 15 checkers. Each player picks a color and arranges their counters, also known as checkers, on the board. Start by setting up the board, using this image or the information booklet as reference. Note the direction of play, which starts at the mountain that is marked with 2 of your checkers, in this case you are playing with yellow, in your opponent's home board, on the opposite side of the board from where you're sitting. You'll then travel across the whole board and end up in your own home board. To start, each roll a die. The player with the highest number takes the first turn and uses the numbers rolled on both dice for their first move. From then on, the players take alternate turns and throw both dice together during their turn. The numbers rolled on a player's turn indicate how many spaces along the points or mountains they may move their counters. But there are also some rules to keep in mind. The counters may only move in one direction, from the opponent's home board around towards the player's own home board. A counter can only be moved to an open point. An open point is one that isn't already occupied by 2 or more of the opponent's counters. The number of each die is considered an individual move, and you can choose how to divide them across your counters. For example, if a 2 and a 5 are rolled, one counter can move 2 spaces and another can move 5, or one counter can move 7 spaces. However, in this case, the midpoint of the 2 moves must be an open point. A player must use both numbers rolled if it's possible to do so. If only one number can be played, that is okay. If neither number can be played, then the player loses their turn. And finally, if a player rolls the same number twice, they can move the number rolled 4 times. If a point is occupied by only one of the opponent's counters, a player may land on this point and hit the opponent's counter off, and move it to the compass in the middle of the board. If any of a player's counters are on the compass, they must return them to the board before they can continue playing, by rolling the number required to reach an open point from the starting point of their playing direction, which is on their opponent's home board. Once all 15 of a player's counters are in their home board, they can begin removing them, or bearing off. To bear off a counter, a player must roll the exact number required to move a counter off the side of the board. If the numbers rolled do not allow a counter to bear off, the turn must be played as normal. If a high number is rolled and there are no counters on the corresponding point, a player may bear off a counter from the next highest point. For example, as you can see here, if a 6 is rolled and no counter is on the 6th or the 5th point, a counter from the next occupied point can be removed. If a counter is hit during the bearing off process, it moves to the compass and must be returned to the board and played back to the home board before bearing off can resume. The first player to bear off all 15 of their counters wins the game. If a player wins before their opponent has borne off any of their counters, this is called a gammon. And if the opponent still has counters in their home board or on the compass, it is called a backgammon.